Tom Reed stood at the window of the Galactic Council's space station, watching the endless sea of stars before him. His reflection showed a man in his mid-30s with tired eyes and messy brown hair. He wore the standard blue uniform of the Human Science Division, but his numerous field patches showed he was anything but standard. "You must be crazy, Reed," said Director Wilson, shaking his head. The older man's hologram flickered slightly in the station's dim light. "No one has ever survived contact with the Shadow Claws, not in 50 years of trying." Tom turned away from the window, a slight smile on his face. "Maybe that's because everyone's been doing it wrong, sir." The director sighed, looking down at the data pad in his hands. 17 research vessels destroyed. Over 200 deaths. The Shadow Claws don't negotiate, don't communicate. They just kill. Or maybe we just haven't learned how to listen. Tom replied, walking over to his desk. He picked up a small device and pressed a button. A hologram appeared, showing a massive creature with dark scales, gleaming claws, and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. "Look at their attack patterns, sir. They're not random. There's intelligence there. The Council has classified them as Level 10 predators, Tom. The most dangerous species known to exist. Even the war clans of Rigel avoid their territory." Tom nodded, zooming in on the hologram. And yet, they've never expanded beyond their home system. Predators, especially unintelligent ones, always expand their territory when they can. The Shadow Claws haven't. They stay in their space, only attacking when others enter it. Wilson rubbed his temples, a gesture Tom had seen many times before when presenting his unusual theories. "So what's your point?" "They're protecting something," Tom said, his eyes bright with excitement. "Or maybe they're protecting everyone else from something. We won't know until we try to understand them instead of just studying them from a distance or going in with weapons ready." "And you think you're the one to do this?" Wilson asked, though his tone had shifted from dismissive to curious. "I spent 10 years studying predator species across the galaxy. My work with the crystal wolves of Europa proved that even the most aggressive species can be understood if we approach them correctly." Tom walked back to the window, looking out at the stars again. "Someone has to try a different way." The director was quiet for a long moment. "The Council won't like this. They'll say you're throwing your life away. Then let me sign whatever waivers they need. This is important, sir. If I'm wrong, we lose one researcher. If I'm right, we might gain answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask yet." Wilson's hologram flickered again as he shook his head. "You always were the stubborn one, Reed. All right, I'll submit your proposal, but you'll need to present it to the Council yourself. They'll want to look in the eyes of the man crazy enough to volunteer for this." Tom smiled. "Thank you, sir. I'll prepare my presentation right away." After the director's hologram faded, Tom looked back at the star field. Somewhere out there, the Shadow Claws were waiting. Everyone saw monsters, killing machines that needed to be avoided or destroyed. But Tom saw something else, a mystery that needed solving, a puzzle that no one had approached with the right mindset. 3 days later, Tom stood before the Galactic Council. 12 representatives from the major spacefaring races looked down at him from their elevated seats, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. "You understand what you're volunteering for?" asked the Arcturian representative, her crystalline form glowing softly. "This is not a mission we expect you to return from." "I understand the risks," Tom replied firmly. "But I also understand the potential rewards. Every species in this room was once considered dangerous or impossible to communicate with by someone else. We're here together now because people took chances, made first contact, found ways to bridge the gaps between us." The council chambers fell silent. Tom stood straight, looking each representative in the eye. Finally, the High Chancellor spoke. "Your request is granted, Researcher Reed. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on your soul." Tom left the chamber with his mission approved and his mind already racing with preparations. In 3 weeks, he would head to the edge of known space, toward the system that had become synonymous with death. But where others saw an end, he saw a beginning. The Shadow Claws were waiting, and Tom Reed intended to be the first person to truly meet them. The research vessel, Hope's Horizon, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Shadow Claw territory. Tom Reed sat in the pilot's chair, checking his instruments one last time. The ship was special, designed to be as non-threatening as possible. Its hull was transparent in several places, letting anyone outside see there were no weapons. Beginning observation protocol, Tom spoke into his recorder. Day 1 at the outer rim of the Shadow Claw system. No sign of activity yet. He looked through the main viewport at the distant red sun and its 7 planets. Somewhere out there, the most feared predators in the galaxy were waiting. The ship's sensors beeped softly. Tom leaned forward, his heart beating faster. Movement detected near the 4th planet. Size matches Shadow Claw profiles. He watched as a dark shape moved against the stars. It was bigger than his ship, with a long, sleek body that seemed to absorb light. As it drew closer, Tom could make out the details that had terrified so many others. The razor-sharp claws, the armored scales, the eyes that glowed like distant suns. But something was different. The creature wasn't charging in to attack. Instead, it moved cautiously, circling his ship at a distance. Tom noticed patterns of light flickering across its scales, like stars twinkling in the night sky. Fascinating, he whispered, quickly adjusting his cameras. They're bioluminescent, the patterns. They're not random. Could this be communication? The Shadow Claw moved closer, and Tom got his first good look at the creature. It was younger than he expected, its scales not yet fully darkened with age. The light patterns on its body changed faster now, creating complex swirls and pulses. You're curious too, aren't you? Tom said softly, though he knew the creature couldn't hear him through the vacuum of space. He pressed a button on his console, activating the external lights he'd installed for just this purpose. They pulsed slowly, mimicking the simple patterns he'd observed. The young Shadow Claw stopped moving. Its head tilted slightly, those bright eyes fixed on Tom's ship. Then, to his amazement, it repeated the pattern back to him. Tom's hands shook as he made notes. First successful interaction with a Shadow Claw. Subject appears to be a juvenile, showing signs of intelligence and mimicry. No aggressive behavior observed. Over the next few hours, Tom continued his light signals, keeping them simple and repetitive. The young Shadow Claw stayed near his ship, sometimes copying the patterns, sometimes creating new ones. Tom named it Storm, after the way the lights rippled across its scales like lightning in dark clouds. Everyone was wrong, Tom recorded in his log. They're not mindless killers. They're trying to talk to us, and we never realized it. A warning alarm broke through his excitement. 3 larger Shadow Claws had appeared, moving quickly toward his position. Storm's light patterns changed instantly, becoming more intense. The larger creatures slowed their approach, their own scales flickering with complex patterns. Tom held his breath, watching the exchange of lights between Storm and the others. His computer recorded everything, but he didn't dare move to check the readings. After what seemed like hours, the larger Shadow Claws moved back, keeping their distance but not leaving. They're staying to watch, Tom realized. Storm must have told them I'm not a threat. He smiled, thinking of how the Council would react to this news. Day 1 of contact, and already every report about Shadow Claw behavior needs to be rewritten. As if understanding his thoughts, Storm moved closer to the ship, close enough that Tom could see every detail of its magnificent form. The lights across its scales had settled into a gentle, almost peaceful pattern. Nice to meet you too, Storm, Tom said, using his ship's lights to create a new pattern, one of his own design. I think this is the beginning of something amazing. In the distance, the adult Shadow Claws watched, their own scales glowing softly in the darkness of space, as humanity made its first real contact with the galaxy's most misunderstood species. 3 weeks had passed since Tom's first contact with Storm. The Hope's Horizon now orbited the fourth planet of the system, its sensors recording every interaction. Tom sat at his workstation, surrounded by holographic displays showing patterns of light and waves of sound. "Play it again," he told the computer, rubbing his tired eyes. The screen showed Storm's latest communication attempt, a complex dance of lights across its scales combined with something else, vibrations that Tom's instruments could barely detect. "Subsonic frequencies," Tom muttered, making another note. "They're not just using light patterns. They're using sound waves that travel through space itself." He adjusted his instruments, focusing on the lower frequencies that normal sensors would miss. Storm appeared outside the viewport, its massive form graceful despite its size. The young Shadowclaw had visited every day, staying longer each time. The adult Shadowclaws kept their distance but remained watchful, their own patterns of light showing what Tom now recognized as curiosity rather than hostility. Tom activated the new communication system he'd been working on. The ship's hull vibrated slightly as it generated the subsonic frequencies, while panels along its side lit up in patterns matching Storm's previous communications. Storm's reaction was immediate. The creature moved closer than ever before, its eyes glowing brighter. New patterns raced across its scales, faster and more complex than any Tom had seen before. "Computer, analyze new patterns and compare to established database," Tom said excitedly. The computer worked for a moment, then displayed its results. Tom's eyes widened as he read the screen. "It's not just random communication," he whispered. "It's a language. A full, complex language using both light and sound." He quickly adjusted his system, programming in what he'd learned. Outside, Storm waited patiently. Tom took a deep breath and activated his modified communication array. The ship pulsed with light and vibration, attempting to say its first real words in Shadowclaw language. "Friend, learn, together." Storm went completely still. For a moment, Tom worried he'd made a mistake. Then the Shadowclaw's entire body lit up in a display more beautiful than anything he'd seen before. The subsonic sensors recorded a complex series of vibrations that the computer translated as yes, teach, share. Tom laughed out loud, his hands shaking as he made notes. First successful two-way communication established with Shadowclaw species. Subject Storm shows clear understanding and ability to engage in dialogue. Over the next few hours, Tom and Storm worked together, each learning from the other. Storm was a quick learner, matching Tom's patterns and helping him correct his mistakes. The adult Shadowclaws moved closer, their own patterns showing increasing interest. "Your kind," Tom transmitted carefully. "Why do you stay in this system?" Storm's response came slowly, clearly chosen with care. "Protect. Guard. Danger below." Tom looked at the planet they orbited. Danger. What danger? Before Storm could respond, one of the adult Shadowclaws approached. Its size made Storm look small in comparison, its ancient scales covered in marks that Tom realized were signs of battles long past. The elder Shadowclaw's patterns were slow and deliberate, filled with meaning that Tom's computer worked to translate. Long ago, others came, did not understand. We protect. We guard. Must keep safe. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. Keep what safe? The elder's patterns became more complex, mixing light and sound in ways Tom's systems struggled to decode. But one message came through clearly. Come. Show. Trust. Storm moved closer to Tom's ship, its patterns encouraging. The elder waited, its ancient eyes fixed on the human who had done what no other had managed. Learn to listen rather than fear. Tom looked at his controls, then at the planet below. Years of mystery were about to be solved, all because he'd chosen to understand rather than run. He engaged his engines, following his new friends toward whatever secret the Shadowclaws had guarded for so long. The Hope's Horizon descended through the atmosphere of the fourth planet, following Storm and the elder Shadowclaw. Tom's hands moved steadily over the controls, but his heart was racing. No human had ever been this close to the Shadowclaw homeworld and lived to tell about it. Beginning planetary descent, he recorded. Surface appears to be mostly ocean, with scattered islands. Temperature readings are within human safe range. He paused as his sensors picked up something unusual. Large energy readings coming from beneath the ocean surface. Storm's patterns flickered in what Tom now recognized as excitement. The young Shadowclaw moved closer to his ship, transmitting. Home. Secret. Soon understand. They flew over the vast purple ocean, its waves reflecting the light of the red sun above. The elder Shadowclaw led them toward a massive island that seemed to glow with a faint blue light. As they got closer, Tom realized the glow wasn't coming from the island. It was coming from underneath it. Energy readings are off the scale, Tom muttered, checking his instruments. Whatever's down there, it's more advanced than anything in the Galactic Council's database. The elder Shadowclaw's patterns formed words. Land. Safe here. Show truth. Tom guided his ship to a smooth landing on a flat area of the beach. Through his viewport, he could see the island was covered in strange crystal formations that pulsed with the same bioluminescence as the Shadowclaws. The air readings showed it was safe to breathe. I'm going to open my hatch, Tom transmitted to his companions. I trust you. Storm's patterns showed happiness, while the elders displayed approval. Tom put on his light environment suit, just in case, and opened the ship's main hatch. The air that rushed in was warm and sweet, filled with unfamiliar but pleasant scents. As Tom stepped onto the beach, he realized he was making history. The sand under his boots sparkled with tiny crystals, and the crystal formations around him hummed with energy. Storm landed nearby, looking even more magnificent on the ground than in space. The young Shadowclaw's size was truly impressive up close, but Tom felt no fear. The elder landed on Tom's other side and used its claws to draw patterns in the sand. To Tom's amazement, the patterns began to glow, forming a map. It showed a vast complex beneath the island, extending deep under the ocean. Ancient ones, left wisdom, left power, left danger, the elder transmitted. We protect. Keep safe. Keep hidden. Tom's eyes widened as understanding dawned. You're not just predators. You're guardians. The previous research ships, they were getting too close to discovering this place. Storm's patterns confirmed. They brought weapons. Wanted to take. Would not listen. Had to protect. The elder led them to a crystal formation that was larger than the others. At its base was an opening that pulsed with blue light. As they entered, Tom gasped. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber filled with technology unlike anything he'd ever seen. Holographic displays showed star maps he didn't recognize, and machines hummed with power he couldn't understand. The Ancient Ones saw far, the elder transmitted. Saw darkness coming. Left us to guard, to protect, to prepare. Darkness? Tom asked, his voice barely a whisper. Storm's patterns became serious. Beyond galaxy. Hungry darkness. Ancient Ones fled. Left warnings. Left weapons. Left hope. Tom looked around the chamber with new understanding. The Shadowclaws weren't mindless killers. They were protecting the galaxy's most important secret. Every death, every destroyed ship, had been to keep this place safe until the right people came to understand. This is why you let me get close, Tom realized, looking at Storm. You knew I was different, that I would listen. The elder's patterns showed agreement. Time of hiding ends. Darkness comes soon. Galaxy must know. Must prepare. You will help tell truth. Tom nodded, his mind already racing with the implications. The Shadowclaws had been protecting humanity, protecting everyone, all along. Now it was time for humanity to return the favor. Tom was deep in the ancient complex, recording the star maps that showed the approaching darkness when his ship's alarm pierced the quiet. Storm's patterns flickered with alarm as the young Shadowclaw received signals from the guards above. Ships approach. Many ships. Weapons active. Storm transmitted urgently. Tom rushed to his communication panel. The screen showed 5 heavily armed vessels entering orbit. His heart sank as he recognized their markings. The Planetary Defense Force, Earth's most aggressive military branch. "This is Commander Jack Black of the PDF." A harsh voice crackled through his comm. "We've tracked your signal. Read. You're hereby charged with treason for aiding hostile alien life forms. Surrender now." The elder Shadowclaw's patterns showed deep concern. "They will destroy. Will take secrets. Cannot allow." "This is Tom Reed," he responded to the commander. "You don't understand what's happening here. The Shadowclaws are not our enemies. They're protecting us all from something worse." "You've been compromised," Black replied. "We've watched your transmissions. You've given these creatures our communication protocols. This ends now. You have 5 minutes to surrender, or we open fire." Storm moved closer to Tom's ship, patterns showing determination. "Friend, protect, stay safe." Above them, dozens of adult Shadowclaws emerged from their underwater homes, their scales blazing with light patterns that Tom's computer translated as battle coordinates. They were organizing a defense, but trying to do it without killing, a fact that would have amazed him just weeks ago. "Commander Black," Tom tried again, "look at your sensors. They could have destroyed me weeks ago, but they didn't. They've been guarding ancient technology left to protect our galaxy. Please, just listen." A warning shot from the PDF ships cut through space, barely missing one of the Shadowclaws. The creature didn't retaliate, showing remarkable restraint. 4 minutes, Reed," Black growled. Tom looked at the elder Shadowclaw. "If I go up there, try to show them the truth, will you protect me?" The elder's patterns were solemn. "Always protect friends. Always protect truth." Tom fired up his ship's engines. Storm immediately moved to escort him, while other Shadowclaws formed a protective formation around them. As they rose through the atmosphere, Tom transmitted everything he'd learned to his ship's memory banks. If something went wrong, the truth had to survive. The PDF ships loomed ahead, their weapons charged. Tom could see smaller fighter craft launching from their bays. "Commander Black, I'm coming up with proof of everything I've said. Please hold your fire." 3 PDF fighters are painting my ship with targeting lasers," Tom recorded calmly. "But I'm not alone, and I'm not afraid." Suddenly, Commander Black's voice came back, sharp with alarm. Multiple contacts emerging from the ocean. All ships, battle stations. Hundreds of Shadowclaws rose from the planet's surface, their bodies creating a living shield between the PDF ships and the ancient complex below. Their scales blazed with synchronized patterns that made them look like a field of stars. "My God," Tom heard one of the PDF crew members whisper over the open channel. Storm moved in front of Tom's ship, facing the PDF vessels. The young Shadowclaw's patterns shone brighter than ever before, transmitting a message that Tom's ship broadcast on all frequencies. "We guard, we protect. We are not enemy. But we will not let you destroy what must be saved." The PDF ship's weapons remained hot, but they didn't fire. In that tense moment, hovering between peace and war, Tom Reed prepared to risk everything to bridge the gap between 2 species who had spent too long seeing each other as monsters. The fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from every spacefaring race sat in stunned silence as they watched Tom's recordings play on the massive central display. Behind him, filling nearly a quarter of the chamber, Storm floated in a specially designed gravity field, the young Shadowclaw's patterns flowing with calm confidence. "As you can see," Tom said, standing before the council, "the Shadowclaws have been protecting us all along." The display showed images of the ancient complex, its vast array of technology, and the star map's warning of the approaching darkness. Commander Black stood to the side, his face stern but respectful. The standoff above the Shadowclaw world had ended peacefully once he'd seen the truth with his own eyes. Now he stepped forward to speak. "I came ready to fight monsters," Black admitted. "Instead, I found the galaxy's most dedicated guardians. My ships had weapons locked on them, but they never attacked. They showed more restraint than we did." The Arcturian representative leaned forward, her crystalline form catching the light. "These star maps you discovered, they show a threat coming from beyond our galaxy." Storm's patterns shifted, and Tom's translation system broadcast the response. "Ancient Ones saw far. Darkness comes. Hungry darkness. Consumes all light, all life." The patterns shifted again, becoming more complex. "We guard weapons. Guard knowledge. Wait for others to be ready." The High Chancellor rose from his seat, his ancient eyes fixed on Storm. "Ready for what?" Tom activated another recording, showing the vast underwater chambers filled with technology beyond anything the Council races had achieved. "Ready to fight back," he explained. "The Ancient Ones didn't just leave warnings. They left us the tools to defend ourselves. But they knew we weren't ready for that power yet. We needed to learn to work together first. That's why the Shadowclaws attacked our research vessels," Commander Black added. "They weren't being aggressive. They were protecting us from power we weren't mature enough to handle." Storm moved forward slightly, patterns showing both sadness and hope. Each death brought pain, but secrets had to be kept. Until now. Until right time. The council chambers erupted in discussion. Tom could hear the fear in their voices, but also excitement. The Shadowclaws had been protecting the most important discovery in galactic history. The Ancient Ones left more than weapons. Tom continued, his voice carrying over the noise. "They left plans for ships that can travel between galaxies. Energy sources we've never dreamed of. Medical technology that could save billions of lives." He gestured to Storm. "The Shadowclaws have been waiting for us to prove we could handle these gifts responsibly." "And how do we know we're ready now?" asked a council member from the back. Storm's patterns brightened, and the translation came through clear. "Because human came alone, came to learn, not to take, showed trust, showed wisdom, showed change is possible." The High Chancellor stood again, raising his hands for silence. "Tom Reed, you have changed everything we thought we knew about the Shadowclaws. But more than that, you've shown us that our assumptions about other species say more about us than them." Storm moved to hover beside Tom, their unlikely friendship on display for all to see. The young Shadowclaw's patterns formed words that made Tom smile. "Time of hiding ends. Time of working together begins." "The Council will need time to process all of this," the High Chancellor announced. "But one thing is clear. We owe the Shadowclaws a debt we can never repay. They've been the silent guardians of our galaxy, waiting for the day we would be wise enough to understand." Tom looked up at Storm, remembering their first meeting. "Sometimes," he said to the Council, "the most dangerous thing in your world is just waiting for you to stop being afraid and start listening." The next few hours would change the course of galactic history. But in that moment, Tom Reed stood beside his friend from the stars, proud to have helped bridge the gap between fear and understanding. 1 year had passed since the revelation at the Galactic Council. The Shadowclaw home system, once avoided by all, now bustled with activity. Research stations orbited the purple oceans, while ships from every council race came to learn and work together. Tom stood on the beach where he'd first learned the truth, watching Storm teach a group of young scientists the complex language of light and sound. The young Shadowclaw had grown over the past year, its patterns now showing the confidence of a true leader. "The latest deep space sensors are ready," Commander Black said, walking up beside Tom. The military man had become one of the strongest supporters of the Shadowclaw Alliance. "We've already detected signs of the darkness at the edge of the Andromeda galaxy. We have time, but not as much as we'd like." Tom nodded, checking his datapad. "The Ancient One's technology is helping us prepare faster than we hoped. The new hybrid ships are almost ready. He looked up at the sky, where the massive shapes of shadow claws moved among the stars, helping to build the galaxy's first line of defense. The elder shadow claw, now known to all as the Keeper, glided down from above. Its pattern showed satisfaction. First fleet nearly complete. Ancient weapons wake. Galaxy unites. What had once seemed like monsters were now recognized as the galaxy's greatest allies. The Shadow Claw's natural abilities, combined with the ancient technology they guarded, made them perfect partners in the coming fight. "Did you ever imagine this?" Black asked, watching as a group of Shadow Claw young played with alien children in the shallow water. "A year ago, I was ready to shoot them on sight." Tom smiled. "I hope for understanding. But this is beyond anything I dreamed." He looked at his datapad again. The medical technology alone has already saved millions of lives, and that's just the beginning. Storm finished the teaching session and moved to join them, its pattern showing joy at seeing its friend. More ships come, more learn, more understand. The young Shadow Claw had become an ambassador between species, helping others learn what Tom had discovered. That fear often blinds us to the truth. "The Council wants to award you both the galaxy's highest honor," Black mentioned, "for changing the course of history." Tom shook his head. "We didn't change history. We just showed everyone what was always true." He reached up to touch Storm's scales, feeling the gentle vibrations of its communication. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come from simply being willing to listen. The Keeper's patterns shifted, showing ancient wisdom. Dark time comes, but galaxy ready now. United strong, united wise, united brave. Above them, a new ship broke through the atmosphere, the first of the hybrid vessels. It combined Shadow Claw biotechnology with the Ancient One's power sources and human innovation. Its hull glowed with the same patterns as Shadow Claw scales, while its engines hummed with energy that could cross galaxies. "The darkness won't know what hit it," Black said with a smile. Storm's patterns showed agreement. Together, all possible. Together, no fear. Tom looked at his unlikely family. The young Shadow Claw who'd first shown curiosity instead of fear, the commander who'd learned to see past his prejudice, and the Keeper who'd waited so long for the right time to share their secret. "Ready for our next mission?" he asked Storm. "There are more mysteries out there, more misunderstood species waiting to be found." Storm's patterns brightened. Always ready, always explore, always together. As the sun set over the purple ocean, casting the crystal formations in beautiful light, Tom Reed realized that this wasn't just a story about humans defying expectations. It was about all intelligent life learning to see past their fears and find the truth waiting on the other side. The galaxy faced a great challenge, but it would face it united. And it all began because one human chose to listen when everyone else ran away.